Which games does she think are the best? The long ones, the short ones, simple, complex. What do you think for Ambie Valdez? Are all her favorite games 18XX? Let's see how well you guess.
Hi, I'm Ambie, and this is my top 100 games as of the end of 2019. This is my number is 80 through 71. My number 80 is Modern Art, which is an auction game where you're buying and selling art and trying to get the most money. In the game, there are 5 different artists, and they all have different art cards, and everyone has a hand of cards. Each turn, you pick a card, and that will go on sale, and you're the auctioneer, and everyone else is bidding for it. One interesting thing about the game is that whoever wins the bid will pay you, not the bank, for the piece of art. But if you, the auctioneer, win the bid, then you pay the bank and you get the piece of art. So if someone else wins it, it's kind of like you get twice as much as they paid because you're not paying for it. Another interesting thing about Modern Art is that at the end of each round you sell the art, and the worth is based on how many art pieces of that artist was sold. So the most will get 30 points, the second most will get 20, and the third most will get 10. But as the rounds go on, it's cumulative. So if someone sold the most the first round and then also sell the most the next round, then it's 60 that round. So that's really interesting that the artists can get more and more popular, and it's also kind of thematic too. I don't usually like auction and bidding games because I don't know how much to bid, but I like that you know the maximum amount that a piece of art can be worth, and then also I think it's really interesting that you're paying it to another player instead of the bank. So that's why I like Modern Art. My number 79 is The Gallerist, which is a worker placement game where you're running an art gallery. You're trying to acquire art and get the artists famous, and then you can exhibit their works of art and sell them too. The Gallerist is designed by Vital Lacerda, who makes pretty involved thematic economic games. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but it also makes sense with the theme. And I really like games like that. One interesting thing is that there's different action spaces on the board that you go to, but if you go to a place where someone else just went, you kick them out, and then they get an extra action called a kicked out action or knocked out action. So that's really interesting, getting an extra action by going to a space that other people want to go to. And it also makes you not want to kick out other people as much. Also, I just like the whole flow of the game where you're planning ahead basically to get the most points, and you have to do a lot of things to do that because you have to like go get the art, and then you want to increase the popularity of that artist. And you also need to get visitors into your gallery, and then you're also trying to get certain sets of art. So there's a lot of things going on to get the most points, and it's a fun game. My number 78 is Eat Poop You Cat, which is a public domain game that's similar to Telestrations. So it's a party game where everyone's alternating between drawing something and writing something. Everyone sits in a circle, and you start out with a word or a phrase that you write down, and then you pass that over to the next person. That person will be drawing what you wrote, and then they cover up the word, and so the next person, when they pass it, only sees the drawing, and then they write what they think they saw, and it keeps going and going until it gets back to you. And basically it's kind of like a game of telephone where it gets completely messed up. So in Telestrations, they have set words that you start off with, like I think you roll a die or something and it has a card. But in Eat Poop You Cat, you just pick whatever you want to start out with. So you can start with a word, or you can start with a sentence, or just some random thing that's not even a thing. So I think that makes the drawings more outlandish and get very funny a lot quicker than with Telestrations. So that's why I like Eat Poop You Cat a lot. My number 77 is The Game, which is a cooperative card game where the deck is the numbers 2 through 99 and you're trying to get rid of the whole deck. To do this, you have to play to one of 4 piles. 2 piles can only increase and 2 piles can only decrease. So on your turn, you have to play cards, but you can't tell other people what your cards are. So you're trying to play to piles to make the smallest gap and hope that other people can still play, because when someone can't play, then you lose. I really like cooperative games, especially when you don't know what the other people have. And this one's really simple and quick, and so that's why I like The Game. My number 76 is Eldritch Horror, which is a cooperative game where you're trying to save the world from these Lovecraft monsters. In the game, everyone's a different character with different stats, and there's a board with a map on it, and on your turn you can move around and do different actions to try to save the world. At the end of each turn, monsters are going to come out and bad things will happen, and you want to defeat the monsters, but you also have a main quest that you need to complete. So you're trying to mitigate the monsters while still completing the main quest. It can be pretty hard because all the skill checks are done by dice rolls. So if you're better at a certain stat, you get more dice, but if you roll poorly, then it doesn't matter anyway. The game is also fairly long, but it's a more streamlined version of a similar game called Arkham Horror. But in Eldritch Horror, the scale is bigger, you're going across the whole world, and you can just ignore monsters if you want to, so it doesn't seem as intense as Arkham Horror, which is more localized. I have lots of good memories of playing Eldritch Horror with my friends, and it's really exciting when you can defeat the old one and win the game, so that's why Eldritch Horror is my number 76. My number 75 is Cheeky Monkey, which is a press your luck game where you're drawing chips out of a bag. Each chip has an animal on it, and there's a bunch of different types of animals and different numbers of each animal. On your turn, you keep drawing animals until you decide to stop, or you draw two of the same animal and then you bust and you don't get anything. But if you decide to stop, you get to keep all those animals and stack them up in front of you, and those are permanent. That is, unless someone else ends up drawing the same animal as the top of your stack on their turn, and then they get that animal too. Also, the monkeys are special. There's the most monkeys in the bag, but if you draw a monkey, you can choose to switch it with the top of someone else's stack. And then if you draw a monkey again, then you can either choose to switch it with another person, or you get all the monkeys on the top. And at the end of the game, you get points for the number of chips you have, as well as extra points if you have the majority of each animal. So it's interesting deciding when you get a monkey if you want to switch with someone or try to keep all the monkeys, because if you have the majority of monkeys, you get a lot of points. And it's also just a funny press your luck game, especially when someone draws two of the same animal as the first two chips. My number 74 is Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, which I mentioned a couple of numbers ago with Eldritch Horror. Arkham Horror is a cooperative game similar to Eldritch Horror where you're trying to save the city of Arkham from the old ones. So as I mentioned when I was talking about Eldritch Horror, I like Arkham Horror because it's just a city and you're moving around to different locations, but when monsters show up, they block you from moving and you have to fight them. So I like that feeling, and it's more tense. Although there's not as much of a story in Arkham Horror as Eldritch Horror, in Eldritch Horror there's the main quests are always connected, but in Arkham Horror it's kind of random. But I like that everything feels smaller and closer together, and you have to actually move around a lot and kill a lot of monsters. So I have a lot of good memories playing Arkham Horror, and it's one of the games that got me into this hobby, so that's why it's my number 74. My number 73 is Dark Moon, which is a hidden trader game. In Dark Moon, everyone's on a ship trying to survive, but people are hidden roles, either humans or infected. And the infected people are trying to sabotage the missions and kill the ship so that the humans die. It's a similar theme to Battlestar Galactica, which I mentioned in the last video. And actually, I think it was designed first as BSG Express, like Battlestar Galactica, the dice game. But it was rethemed when it was published. So on your turn, you're doing actions to try to repair the ship and stuff, and you do that by rolling dice behind your screen. And the dice have positive and negative numbers, but more negative than positive. And in order to pass, you need to do positive numbers. So if you roll all negatives, you won't pass, but other people don't know what you rolled, so that makes it look like you could be bad. I like this because it shows what each person inputted, and so you can be accusing that person specifically, but they have an excuse that they rolled poorly. So it has a very different feeling than Battlestar Galactica, where the accusations start out more general. Also, Dark Moon plays pretty quickly, like in an hour, so I'm able to get it played a lot more. My number 72 is Transamerica, which is a pretty simple route-building train game. In Transamerica, there's a map of America with different cities on it, connected by triangular grids. And everyone has a secret hand of 5 cities that they need to connect. On your turn, you're placing track down to try to connect your cities. But what's interesting is that all of the track belongs to everyone. So once you connect your starting player to someone else's, then they can use your track too. So you're trying to build to get to your cities, but also jump off of what other people have built and have them build for you so you don't have to build as much. So I think that's really interesting, and it's really simple and easy to learn too, because I've played it with a bunch of different groups of people and they've all had a lot of fun. My number 71 is Patchwork, which is a 2-player game where you're getting different polyomino pieces and putting them on your board to make a patchwork quilt. I like spatial games a lot, and this has a lot of that where you're taking the pieces and trying to fit them on your board, and you're trying to fill as much space as possible because at the end, any space that you haven't filled is negative points. Also, the way you acquire pieces is interesting because you have to pay time and buttons to get the piece. Buttons are your points at the end of the game, and the time is a track that you're going on the board. But the person in last place on the board is whose turn it is. So if someone spends a lot of time on one piece, then the other person can get multiple pieces in a row. And the pieces are in an order, and you can only get one of three at a time. So you're planning ahead trying to decide, like, I want that piece because it fits perfectly here, but the other person can take it. So I think that's really fun, having the interaction between the other person trying to deny them the pieces that they need, but also trying to get the pieces that you need to build up your perfect little quilt. So that was my number 80 through 71 favorite games. Stay tuned for the rest of the list, and thanks for watching!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.